Be advised, the digital graveyard contains the following: adult language, bad advice, and spoilers. There will be no further warnings. Consider yourself disclaimed.
Digital Graveyard, still trying out funny catchphrases. Let me know if that one sticks. Tweet at the digital_graveyard to let us know your favorite catchphrases that you've heard on the show. I'm your host, Eric Graves. With me, as always, is your also host,
Bobby Digital, and we are recording here today on, oh my gosh, it never pulls up right.
It's August 31st.
31st.
31st, yeah. I know that because I just moved. We're finally finished moving.
Yay! I wish I could have been more help with you this weekend, man.
Bobby, your presence was present enough. It's great. No, yeah, it was. I got it done. It took way too long to clean it this morning, and literally, I got all my stuff put in storage. I left the storage unit and came to the studio, and now we're recording. So that's what I've been up to. Bobby, how about you?
Well, this weekend, yeah, I helped you for a little bit, but then I went to like a friend's housewarming party.
Yeah.
And just got completely shit-faced. Everyone learned a little bit more about me. Yesterday, I went out and saw the new Mutants movie.
Yes, and this we should mention that that we started recording today because you text me, and I quote, "I just saw New Mutants. I feel like we got to talk about it."
Yeah.
So
We do. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't had time to see any movies.
Well, I mean, it's not like you could have really made time. Most movie theaters aren't even open right now.
Yeah.
But, so right now, all the reviews for this movie are like either overwhelmingly positive or saying it's the worst X-Men movie ever.
I've heard more of the latter than the former.
Right. And I'm gonna give it a solid B.
A solid
B? Honestly. Yeah. It's not bad. It's not as bad as, Wolverine Origins or X-Men 3 or Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, that's pretty bad too.
Yeah.
You've listed some pretty bad movies there, Bob.
All three of those are so bad. But this one was good. Through the whole movie, my girlfriend Reba was really loving Maisie Williams' character, who is
Wolfsbane.
Yeah, they just call her Rain in the movie, but yeah, she's Wolfsbane.
Yeah, that's her first name, I'm pretty sure. So yeah. That checks out. Yeah. Is she Irish as hell?
Oh yeah, she tries to do the Irish accent through the whole fucking thing, and
no, go ahead.
They also make her super like Catholic, which I'm not a New Mutants fan. I know of the characters just like, because I've read enough X-Men that I do know like tangentially who these guys are.
I know,
but I never read New Mutants.
I know Wolfsbane, Warlock, and Magic, and I know only two of the ones that I listed were in the movie. Wait, is Warlock in the movie? You can spoil. This show is all about spoilers. You can spoil it for me, Bobby. I won't be mad.
Oh, I can spoil the movie. Good. Warlock is not.
Damn it!
The main characters are Danny Moonstar? Yeah.
Moonstar? Okay.
Yeah, Danny Moonstar, who her power is that she can manifest your greatest fears.
Oh. I don't know enough about the New Mutants either, I guess.
Yeah, Magic, who is, Colossus's sister.
Yeah, who's playing Magic?
Dude, I don't know, but if she doesn't look exactly like Magic from the comics.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like every image you've seen of her is just like that was straight ripped out of the book, man.
Yeah.
You got that. You nailed that. The other ones were...
Wolfsbane, obviously.
Cannonball.
Oh, nice!
Yeah, the dude whose power is literally just to shoot himself in one direction.
Yeah, no, I know Cannonball. He's very, very fast. He can do it. That's his whole thing.
Yeah, and I think... They call him Roberto in the movie. First of all, they never refer to anyone by their like mutant names.
Lame.
Right. Except at one point she's just like, "I am magic."
But I bet she spelled it with a C and not a K. Like the word magic. Come on.
Yeah. But the last guy they call Roberto, I think he's supposed to be Sunfire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Sunfire is Latino. That checks out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that's it. Yeah. Whose power was like, he absorbs like sunlight radiation and he can use that to like give himself super strength.
Unless I'm confusing him with an Inhuman, because I know they also have like a fire powered Inhuman. I can't remember. It's been so long since I gotta start reading comics again, man. But okay, so those are the only ones that are in the movie, really?
Yeah, and you're gonna be excited for this. The Essex Corporation plays a huge role, right?
Oh,
Those,
guys,
for those of you
guys.
that don't know, so Mr. Sinister is behind the Essex Corporation,
Yes,
and Eric has
Sinister.
wanted Mr. Sinister in an X-Men movie for so long.
He's the only like major X-Men villain that we've never seen in any of the live-action films, you know, and he's always been my favorite X-Men villain, just because you know I'm well, admittedly I was an edgelord as a teenager. He's just the most edgelord villain, dude. He looks like a freaking vampire. His power is just that he can't die. Like it's crazy. Well, his power is that he basically Sylar from Heroes. Like he can basically study mutants to the point where he can copy and impose those powers upon himself or others, as the case may be. He's so great. He's so great, and his name is Nathaniel Essex. So that's why I had that deep throated belly laugh when Bobby said Essex Corporation there. So it's something that I've wanted since X-Men First Class. No, Days of Futures Past, right? That's when they had the first.
Yeah, I think that's when they first mentioned it being a thing.
It was barely a thing in Deadpool 2, and I was very upset that wasn't a feature. Do we see Mr. Sinister, or is it just this Essex Corporation?
It's just the Essex Corporation. Like, so they were all like, you know, involved with the law or whatever, right? Like when they were picked up by someone of the Essex Corporation, and then just brought to like this fancy ass mansion and told like, you guys can't leave here. The closest town is over 20 miles away.
Sounds like a pretty standard childhood to me.
Right, so you're staying here and we're going to study your powers. But, you know, they keep doing it under, like, the guise of, like, we're here to make you get better, you know?
Sounds about right.
Right, so it's very manipulative and all that stuff. I got to ask, do you know Magic's powers? Because, like, they're very vague onto what they are in the movie.
I guess I don't specifically know her powers. I mean, she's got a sword that she summons. She can teleport, at least, like, short distances. Or no, she can teleport a lot. She can, like, open portals with the sword, too.
Yeah, it looks like they try to make it that her powers are that she can teleport into a alternate dimension that she calls Limbo.
Sure.
And then just like reappear into our world. So like, yeah, kind of like how I know that's how Nightcrawler's powers work too.
Yeah,
that, like,
yeah.
He passes through a dimension to get to where he needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, at least in the X-Men Evolution cartoons, I do know that like the puff of smoke that results from Nightcrawler's teleporting, the poof, is or the bamf, excuse me, is the correct word. The bamfs are it's like sulfur from this like toxic atmosphere of whatever dimension it is that he travels through. I don't know Magic's, but I do know that Magic is, as you say, magic. I don't know where she got that magic power from. If her power was to just teleport to Limbo, I know she does have a lot of storylines with like not necessarily crossing over with Ghost Rider, but you know, like that same kind of Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, supernatural end of Marvel. You know what I mean?
Well, and I know she plays a big role in that new The Strange Academy.
Oh,
book.
okay.
Yeah, she's one of like the teachers there.
When I first started reading X-Men comics, from when I was at sort of the pinnacle of my comic book reading days, she was one of the primary characters in I think it was Extraordinary X-Men was when I started reading, where Storm was the head of the Xavier School and
Best
Colossus
leader,
yeah. And Colossus and Nightcrawler were like in hiding. Nobody had seen him in forever. Yeah, but yeah, like so Magic was like the most prominent one left. So she kind of became Storm's like right hand woman in that retelling of the Bard's Tale. But yeah, okay. So you give the movie a solid B. Was there anything that anything keeping that movie? Here's my question: What in your words was keeping this movie from being an A?
Okay, so you know how like all the trailers kind of like pin it to be like a horror movie, a horror superhero movie, right?
Yes, more thriller and suspense heavy than others that we saw. That was the clear intention with the trailer, and we talked about it in our first episode. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say they didn't lean far enough into it. They're like, yeah, there were scary elements and a couple jump scares, but nothing was really scary for like a viewer, you know.
So it's
And at a
still
certain point, it just turned into a classic like all the
another
superheroes
superhero
fight the
movie.
one monster type of
Right.
deal, you know.
Okay. Well, cool. Would have been better with Warlock. Whatever.
I agree, totally would have. But Lockheed the Dragon is in it,
What?
so
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah,
So that's cool. Anyway.
yeah. They changed his origin. He comes from Limbo, but whatever.
Yeah, isn't he an alien in the comics or something
Yeah,
like that?
he's just an alien. Like,
Oh, all right. Well,
I remember reading one X-Men book where they were like, Lockheed is homesick, and he
Yeah.
keeps trying to like fly into space, and like members of the X-Men just keep being like, "Oh, where are you going, buddy?" Like, I'm like, "Oh, you guys are keeping an intelligent dragon like as a pet."
yeah, it's pretty horrible. That was the other thing I recalled as well. I can't remember which run of X-Men this was, but there was one that came after Extraordinary X-Men where Kitty Pryde becomes the leader of the X-Men school. And I remember when you finally see Lockheed, he's like, no, Lockheed's like just a legit dragon. Like he's sitting on a treasure pile somewhere deep beneath the Earth's surface, and they had to go find him. Yeah, Lockheed is the real hero. Go see the movie for Lockheed. That's my 2 cents on the topic.
Yeah, even though he hasn't seen it. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'll tell you what I did see though, if you're ready to move on.
Sure.
Last night. I watched Project Powers with Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I still need to see that. It's on my watch list. There's so much I got.
I don't think it's. I'm gonna give it a B as well. I don't think. I can't compare it as like is it better than New Mutants because I haven't seen New Mutants. Obviously, it's definitely better than Bright, which I didn't even think was as bad as other people thought it was.
I thought Bright was pretty bad. I won't lie. I didn't like Bright.
I was, I guess, occupied with sex while I was watching Bright, so I kind of only caught every other.
Wow, way to like stick it to me, man.
It was
like,
a
shit.
date night, man. I don't remember the parts that I remember. I kind of liked anyway. Or I remember orcs were super into death metal. That was cool. Anyway, no. So I don't know. Like it felt a little like Bright. But basically, Project Powers is a movie set in New Orleans, and it's some company has uncovered a pill that gives you superpowers for 5 minutes. And it's the just the Kraven the Hunter kind of powers. It's like some animal's ability in nature. This will unlock that biological adaptation in you for 5 minutes. But the power is already like in your DNA, like it's coded in there. The pill just exacerbates it and brings it to the surface or something. So once you take the pill the first time, you find out what power you have, and then it's just there's no other. They don't really talk about any other side effects of this drug, although people who are on it do seem like a little unhinged at the time. That could just be them being crazy, but it's illegal. Because your power could just be like a bombardier beetle, and you just blow up in that 5 minutes, and there is no second time because you've been blown up, or like your power could be something that isn't like a parent's, like regeneration. So when you test for regeneration, you like could injure yourself, and then your power wasn't really regeneration; it was the ability to understand fish or something. I don't know. But basically. Jamie Foxx is a drug dealer who's peddling this drug, but he's trying to find where the source of it's coming from. At the same time, Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a sort of a Mel Gibson, he wasn't in Die Hard, but a Lethal Weapon-esque kind of like cop, he's just like
Sure.
Oh, the commissioner! The commissioner's up my ass. Joseph Gordon Die Hard. Why are you breaking all these rules? I gotta break these rules, Chief. That's actual bit of dialogue from the movie.
Okay, I am glad that you kind of explained how that pill works, because the trailers make it kind of seem like anytime you take it, you'll end up with a random ability.
No, yeah, it's always the same one. There's and you can kind of tell like people who have taken it, because sometimes. There was a guy who's half of his body's burned, and it's fire powers. It's just when his powers wear off and he's still on fire, he got half of his body burned.
Sure.
And he just ODs the fuck on these pills too, and just is like it burns down an entire building. He just becomes like a wrecking ball of fire. It's crazy. So yeah, no, like I mean, as far as like the story, I kind of wasn't paying that much attention to it, so I can't say if it's with confidence that it's a good movie. I didn't think it was bad though from watching it though. I think you should, worth checking out.
I mean, yeah, I got plenty of time. I'm probably gonna check it out then.
Well, yeah,
All right.
we're a little past the 15-minute mark, Bobby. I know you did have a lot you wanted to talk about. We can keep going on pleasantries, or we can get into some of the meat.
We can get into the meat, man. Let's go for it.
All right, meat
All right.
man.
Really sad to say, but over the weekend here, Chadwick Boseman, who most of us know as the T'Challa Black Panther, did pass away.
Yeah.
He passed away from colon cancer, which he'd been fighting for. I think it said 2016 is when he was diagnosed.
Yeah. Wow. I don't even remember any of that. So I don't. So
He
it was
didn't
very
let
surprising.
people know.
I saw a picture of him before he died too. Like it's insane. Like that guy was clearly battling cancer. I can't believe like this is so sudden. Not just because like you don't think of actors dying. You know, it's always tragic when actors die because their work can't continue if they're in a continuing series. It's tragic when anyone passes. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the fact that it seemed this was so mum. Like, he kept it so hidden, and then one day out of nowhere, it's well, now we gotta either recast Black Panther or do a lot of CGI advancement in the next couple of months.
Yeah, he was very private. It seems like, from what I'm reading, no one outside of like his family and a select few, like people in the business knew of his condition.
So if he was diagnosed in 2016, my God, like, so he was in 2 Avengers movies briefly, but
yeah, so
and
Black Panther came out in 2018.
Yeah, so maybe he filmed that before he got the diagnosis, but it would have had to be. I mean, I don't think he was probably battling this while he was filming all of the Marvel movies he was in.
Yeah,
it's insane to think about.
Yep,
and like colon cancer is an incredibly painful form of cancer. I've heard as well. You can't eat, like you vomit, you shit. It's a really bad one.
And I was talking with Reba about it when the night it happened. The night we heard that he passed.
Yeah.
She was like, I did notice he seemed skinnier in more recent interviews, and then I go and look back. I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
From his introduction in Captain America: Civil War till now, you can kind of see that he's thinned out, but overall he kept it very well hidden.
It's crazy to think about, but yeah, he'll be sorely missed, and we anxiously await to hear any news about from his family or loved ones or any kind of memorial or anything like that. The internet certainly has taken notice in a big way, as you would expect.
He's and I don't want to downplay, because even though a lot of people can kind of look at the amount of movies, amount of TV shows he's been in, and kind of be like, that's not that much. You got to kind of look at the roles he took.
Yeah, he's a very young actor,
Well, yeah, he was 43.
Yeah.
So his first acting role was in All My Children. That was his first reoccurring role.
Sure. Soap operas, right?
Right. And then he did a bunch of an episode here, an episode there, in pretty big name shows: Law and Order, ER, Cold Case.
Yeah. I definitely knew the name Chadwick Boseman before he was announced as Black Panther. I just had never seen anything that he was in. But that is how acting happens sometimes.
I really do want to stress he really was a black icon.
Oh yeah.
His first big really big role, I'll say, is the movie 42, where he plays Jackie Robinson.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Okay, sure.
Yeah, and then the very next year, he is in Get On Up. He plays James Brown.
Oh, man. What a...
And then he did Gods of Egypt, where he played Thoth. And then he did Captain America: Civil War, where he was Black Panther. And then later on, he played Thurgood Marshall.
Damn. Yeah, very, very prominent roles, all of them. I mean, what we can say is things about gods of Egypt, but Thoth is the god of knowledge. That's very, you know, that's not nothing. Don't
Yeah.
turn up your nose at the Egyptian gods.
Yeah.
Um,
So
God.
he does leave behind a wife that he actually only married back in 2019,
Oh,
back in October.
wow.
Um, and that was even a secret marriage. Like no one knew until he
I
passed.
didn't know. Of course, I'm not the
Oh,
kind of guy who looks into that about actors, but again, it's still.
but
Wow.
yeah. So he does have a couple projects that you know, will release, after his passing.
Yeah,
Those being
Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus
the
style.
those being the Marvel What If series, where
Sure.
he's still playing Black Panther,
Right.
and something called Ma Rainey Black Bottom, which let's see, it's an
I
upcoming
don't.
drama film directed by George C. Wolfe, based on a play.
Oh,
So
okay. Then it's still not ringing any bells, Bobby. I don't know. I
no,
don't
I don't
know.
know it either. But those are two things that are releasing that are going to come out, since his passing.
Yeah, soon-ish. Okay, and of course, as of right now, no announcement from Marvel on the continuation of Black Panther, or because there was another Black Panther movie queued up.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Um,
haven't started filming though, like COVID and all that. But
yeah, yeah.
and that was very much like the like sequel movie that a lot of people were looking forward to, because the first Black Panther's so good.
It's very
Look,
good. It's very I've watched it drunk off my ass, shall we say, in so many terms, and I've watched it not, and it's still good. It's still good. I mean, it's better when you're really wasted, but it's
Yeah.
still it's still a really damn good movie. And something that I mentioned to you, I would not shut up about this when after the week after I watched Black Panther.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Afrofuturism, which is a word that I was aware of, but really looked into after Black Panther, because you don't. Afrofuturism is exactly what it sounds like. It is science fiction from the perspective of the African continent, right? It is African tribes, African communities, African cities imagined in the future in the same way that we think of sci-fi, because you don't think about sci-fi being a Eurocentric genre, but it was pretty much invented by Jules Verne, who was a white man living in North America. The same way that we think of high fantasy in Tolkienian sense. That's why we give elves British accents all the time. So
Yeah.
Afrofuturism, really, what it represents is an equally unique and separate and distinct genre of this fantasy that really has never been touched by anybody in any. I read a book about that was in an Afrofuturistic setting when I was like in 4th grade, called
Sure.
The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm. It was pretty good. But I can't think of a single movie. I'm sure there have been comic books. I'm sure there have been graphic novels. I'm sure there's been. I'm sure there is a big
I have a
Afrofuturistic
few
movement.
books downstairs. Yeah, a few
Yeah.
graphic novels.
But I've never
Oh.
seen a movie. I've never seen a movie
No.
that was set in that until I saw Black Panther. And I mean, it might have been the inebriance that I had partaken of that night. But I just remember my mind was blown by that concept and how well it was executed in that movie. It's such a triumph of that.
Well, we
That
saw
may
we
inspire.
saw it together, and
We did.
like we really can't downplay how important Black Panther is, like, to people.
Well, we will I'm not gonna, as a white man, I'm not gonna say anything about the racial aspect of Black Panther and the importance of the representation of an African, not just an African American superhero, but an African superhero. But
Yeah.
as I will say that just in the comic books, as a comic book nerd, Black Panther is one of the most important figures that Stan Lee has ever created.
Oh yeah.
He's the
Oh
king
yeah.
of a country.
He was like the second wave of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, where he worked with Professor X and Mr. Fantastic to, like, make the world better without everyone knowing.
Yeah, he's the Doctor Doom of good, which is a weird
Yeah.
way to put that, but he is. They're both the kings of sovereign nations. They are both highly technologically advanced. They're both costume vigilantes, obviously. And they both have diplomatic immunity. he is the antithesis of Doctor Doom, which is weird to say, but Mr. Fantastic, frankly, isn't. He's intellectually
No.
maybe, but the Black Panther is a genius too. It's just
Yeah, like I would say Black Panther and Doctor Doom are way better like equals
yeah.
than Mr. Fantastic than him.
Even though
they
they usually pit Black Panther up against Namor, which is fine too, but
yeah. Well, and also Black Panther was introduced to a Fantastic Four book, so like yeah, it's fine.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's all fine. We got back around to it. So yeah, I mean the loss not only to the comic book community and comic book fans, but the loss to this cinematic universe. Like this cinematic universe has lost that has only once successfully recast. Twice recast a character. Once being Edward Norton replaced by Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk.
Yeah, and the other being Don Cheadle replacing
Terrence Howard
as
War Machine. Yep, and both of those were the Hulk was during a transitional period, so nobody really cared about that. War Machine
and apparently Ed Norton is terrible to work with.
Yeah,
like, that was the reason.
And apparently Terrence Howard was let go for the same reason. In that War Machine was at the time a very secondary character. He was not nearly even as prominent as he would become in later movies, and he's never had his own movie.
And he never will.
The point being that this is the first time that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is forced to deal with something like this. That their leading actor will not be returning for the next film. They cannot do it. There is that is
like
certainty.
There's no negotiation. Like he's gone.
Yeah.
Like
it is a certainty that he cannot be in Black Panther 2, which I desperately hope they still will do. They have the choice of either recasting this, being the first major recasting in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far, or changing the script, and
which I think they would do the latter, like because recasting anyone is a tough choice. Recasting a person who's passed is even like harder.
Yeah, it's difficult, and Marvel, the MCU does not shy away from rewriting and reworking characters' origins, characters' backstories, and characters' development. The Captain Marvel movie is a great example of that.
Well, I was even gonna say like the whole like Winter Soldier killed Tony's dad.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Because the MCU is in itself a comic book arc. It is not. They're not remaking.
It's not
these
a retelling
movies.
of the books. It's a reimagining of them.
Exactly. It is just like a comic book arc. Like you have the author. The author gets some liberties with making these, and that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been, to the chagrin of butthurt fanboys for the last decade. But they're allowed to retell these stories. So if they want to, I don't know, make Black Panther 2 about Shuri, which I think is probably probably the direction they'd go if I was
That's
sitting
probably
around
the safest bet to go.
Yeah, make her, because there have been female Black Panthers, right?
Well, it's been her.
Yeah,
Shuri,
it's been her.
Like before
exactly.
the MCU, Shuri was most well known for being the Black Panther for a while.
Yeah,
like that was it.
Yeah, T'Challa's little sister. It's exact. I didn't know her name, but I knew she was the Black Panther at least a couple of times. So that would be the obvious way to go. But as of right now, I mean, it's much too soon to even be like talking about this seriously. We're just speculating.
He hasn't even really had a funeral yet.
His body's still warm, Bobby. Stop being so ghoulish, man. Come on, Digital Graveyard. What is this? The digital. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Pretty morbid already. Well, okay, all right. Pretty sad news.
Let's move on to like something a little more uplifting.
Okay, do you have something planned, or do you want to talk about? Because there were a couple of things that trailers that Netflix released that I wanted to talk about, but we can keep moving on if you think we.
Let's go through your Netflix thing.
Sure. We're about halfway through the show, so I can make this pretty quick. We talked about this one on I think our first episode. The Dragon's Dogma trailer has officially dropped.
Sweet. I haven't watched it yet.
I don't know if I'm gonna say it looks good. Because because it's that same kind of CGI anime that they've been doing, Knights of Sidonia style. You know what I mean?
I don't like CGI anime.
Yeah,
I don't.
You know what it looks? It looks a lot like Fire Emblem. It looks a lot like the cutscenes from Fire Emblem. But as far as I can say, yeah, it looks shot for shot like an exact retelling of the video game, with the noted change that the main character has, a backstory and he can talk and stuff. But yeah, no. So I don't know. I'm not really ready to make a judgment about it yet. I'll definitely watch it. I can tell you that. But the other one that I wanted to bring up, because we had my first Graves horror movie pick recommendation last week. It's one that you actually recommended to me when we were living together years ago. The Babysitter.
I loved this movie.
Yeah, The Babysitter. Which, for those who don't know, is a horror movie thriller about a kid who's a little too old for a babysitter, but his babysitter's really stupid hot. While his parents are out of town, she's a cool babysitter too. Like, she's a good babysitter. But
she's fun. She shows an interest in what he likes.
Yeah. And then after he goes to bed, she brings her friends over, like any good babysitter would do, and they sacrifice somebody to Satan.
Yeah.
So and the kid
Every
sees
babysitter's
this.
Done it. Don't lie.
Yeah, come on, man. We were all young once. Stop acting so high and mighty. So anyway, the kid sees this, and the rest of these teenagers are trying to kill or at least subdue this child. For the most of the movie, it's a horror comedy, which, Bobby, you said in the last episode you don't like horror, but I know for a fact you do like horror comedies because you like Tucker and Dale versus Evil too.
I do like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I like the Evil Dead movies. A horror comedy's great.
Yeah, it's just like anything, man. A good movie is a good movie, and The Babysitter was a great horror comedy. Is a great teen horror comedy, man. That's a good date movie too. But they announced a sequel and they dropped a trailer for it. The kid's he's a high schooler himself now. Looks like he's probably almost close to graduating.
I think it's the same kid too.
I do think it's the same actor, but I have to double check. Because I'm pretty sure all the teenagers are the same as well.
They are, yeah. They got the exact same actors playing those characters.
Except they're ghosts now, and it's on the beach. So it's in true '80s horror movie slasher fashion. It's doing a beach sequel, and I'm really excited about that. And I know, Bobby, I'm assuming you are as well, because you like the first one so much.
I love it. Watching the trailer, I immediately saw a bunch of callbacks to the first movie.
Yeah.
Really? After watching the trailer, I went and I watched. I'm gonna do a little shout out here. There's a YouTube channel called Dead Meat.
Yeah.
Where they watch horror movies and they rate the best kill in every single movie.
Oh, nice.
That's all they do. So I watched their episode of The Babysitter, and I'm like, yeah, they do all the callbacks to how they all died and the things they were trying to teach them at the time. Because the one jockey dude the whole time is being like, bro, stand up for yourself, man. Don't be a little bitch.
Oh yeah, that's totally right. He stops his attempt to kill the child to tell him to man up. I do remember that part. I gotta watch that movie again. It's so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was another thing I was pretty excited about. While we were just before we started recording, I saw that today the Haunting of Bly Manor trailer has released. Neither me nor Bobby have watched it yet, but that is, for those who don't know, the sequel to The Haunting of Hill House, not set at Hill House anymore, but if you watched, Bobby, did you watch The Haunting of Hill House?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's a horror series on Netflix. It's based on originally it was a book, then it was adapted into a play, then it was turned into a movie in the 30s. No, it couldn't be the 30s, like the 60s. Called The Haunting. And that movie was remade in the 90s, starring Owen Wilson and God.
Yeah, I can't help you, man, on this one.
Yeah, no, he's super famous. He's Ra's al Ghul. He's Ra's al Ghul in Dark.
Oh, shoot, in the Dark Knight. Okay.
Nielsen. No, not Leslie
No,
Nielsen. That was the guy from the Top Gun.
No.
That was the guy from Naked Gun. Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson.
It was the same first and last initial, so that's what tripped me up. Yeah, Liam Neeson and Owen Wilson are in this in the remake in the '90s, which I remember at the time when I was like 5 when it came out. It scared the shit out of me. It's not a very good horror movie now that I have an adult brain. But the Haunting of Hill House series on Netflix is a complete retelling. It's not based on the original story or anything like that. It just takes elements from it and makes it into a story about a family that's it's sort of a time shifted show. You see flashbacks to when they were kids in like I think it must be like 1996 when this happened, and then in present day. It's a family. It's a pretty big family. I don't know who plays the dad. The mother is played by Cara Gugino. Is stupid attractive, even when she's insane. But basically, the mother did some crime, but the kids don't exactly know what it was about. They just know that she killed herself in this house that they were renovating. That was this mansion that's what their parents did. That their parents like renovated old houses and sold them for profit.
Okay.
Now the kids are growing up. Like the oldest one's an author who wrote a book about it. The youngest two are twins. One is like has sleep night terrors, and one is a drug addict because they were like the most affected by the haunting in this house. And each episode kind of focuses on a different member of the family until their stories converge, and then you just sort of piece together what happened at this house. By the end of the series, and it was stupid good. It's stupid good. It might be one of my favorite Netflix original series, and I know a lot of other people would agree. So that's why this because there's been a lot of talk about this sequel ever since the show first came out. But anyway, that was the only other thing on Netflix where we can move on because I do know that there were a lot of other stuff you wanted to talk about, and I could go on forever about horror movies.
Yeah, you really could, but this is something I'm so excited about. Like, literally, if you look at my phone right now, like, I use them as my background.
I can't look at your phone right now, Bobby.
Well, they're here.
We're recording.
Milestone Comics is finally coming back.
Oh, right.
Like, all right. So, for those of you that don't know, Milestone Comics are responsible.
This is another thing we talked about like 2 weeks ago, I think. Right? It was like the Milestone... The Milestone Trinity or whatever it was, like the 3 archetypes.
Well, yeah, just a concept of like they were like for any comic publisher they need to have like 3 archetypes.
Yeah,
those being like the Paragon, the I think Struggle, and the Naive.
Yeah, that was the 3.
Yeah, and yeah, like they did it at the time, but now we're actually talking about them coming back.
Actual Milestone properties right now.
Right.
And now is Milestone solely responsible for these characters, or do they have like a partnership with DC or what? What is the deal?
So like in its original inception, they weren't really associated with DC. DC just published the books.
Yeah.
So it was a case of like they own it, but they needed someone to print the books.
Yeah, crossovers on the show too.
Right, and like and down the line they were like, okay, let's kind of make like a little deal with them, like. So yeah, the Static Shock show happened, and then in the comics world, like they crossed over a lot, but they were always purposeful in the comic books to be like, we do not exist in the DC universe.
Oh, all right.
Like we're our own thing.
I never knew that. Because when we were living together, this was almost 10 years ago. We were always talking about like how come DC doesn't do more with Static Shock? Like Static Shock is a great character. How come he's doesn't have his books aren't as prominent as other characters? You know.
Yeah. Well, eventually when Milestone, it went under. It had a good run. It was like 5 years or so.
Sure.
But it had to go under, and because DC published them, they tried to like absorb them, and really that only resulted in as much as like Static Shock had his cartoon, and once in a while characters like Static and Icon and Rocket would show up in other books.
Yeah,
but they didn't have their own titles.
Static Rocket and Icon were all in the Young Justice series as well. We just mentioned the most prominent three. Bobby, for those who might not know, do you have like a list of other of some of the more prominent milestone
Yeah.
characters?
I can just name them off the top of my head. Yeah, you got the Blood Syndicate, which is think of them like an X-Men ripoff or like an
Okay.
X-Force ripoff, really.
Yes, very distinct and different.
Yeah. Right. Then there's Hardware, who's kind of like an Iron Man type of character,
Yeah.
which, you know, Hardware
Yes,
makes sense.
easy to explain.
And nope, I guess that's it. Like those are the biggest. I know they had other books because like they tried to be like, we want to be a diverse company, not a black company.
Sure.
So they do have other characters who aren't all black, but like they never rose to be quite as liked as any of those others.
Well, Hardware wasn't black, was he? Or
Hardware was totally black.
oh, is he? Okay, I'm thinking of somebody else then. I
But,
guess I don't know.
But and a big reason they never like use them in the books is because Dwayne McDuffie, who created all these characters and founded Milestone Comics, passed, and that made like the legal ownership of all these characters like go to his wife.
Oh, wow, okay.
So like it turned into this whole like, if DC wants to use them, they have to pay her however much.
Right. It's sort of a Spawn Al Al Simmons.
Al Simmons,
Situation.
Yeah. So yeah, for a long time DC was just like, well, then we just won't use them. But earlier this year they came up with a deal, and now Milestone Media is finally coming back, and they have new redesigns and everything for every single character.
I love me some good redesigns. Can't wait to see some of them, man.
Yeah, for real. Like you're gonna have to check these out. They all, you can tell who everyone is, and that's what I think is very important here.
Yeah.
Like Hardware looks like Hardware. Static, I'm not loving.
Oh no.
Because okay, can I just say like, have you seen what Static looked like originally?
No, I guess I haven't.
Where like he wears like a blue leotard with like the lightning bolt, but that's it. Like, and then he wears like a hat.
Oh.
That's
kind
of
his costume in Young Justice, was just like street clothes and a backwards hat with a lightning bolt on him. Like that was it too. So maybe that was more inspired by that then. I don't know.
Yeah, it was the Static Shock cartoon that introduced like the coat.
Yeah, and his goggles, dude.
And I love the coat. The coat is such a good design of be like, we want a cape, but we don't really want a cape.
Did he always have the flying frisbee sort of thing?
Yep, he always did that.
Okay.
Because everyone's like, oh, his powers, he shoots electricity. It's like, no, he has complete control over like electromagnetism.
Yeah, well, like magnets, electrons are. The word electricity gets its name from electrons. Sorry, this is a chemistry thing. Like, but when one electron moves from another atom to another, like that current is what electricity is. It's the force of those electrons moving is what pushes electron through copper wiring is how electricity works. So when your power is like, oh, I can shoot lightning, is like, okay, cool. You charge up electrons and shoot them out your hands. If your power is control over electrons, you can create magnets. You can fly via those magnets. You could, think about what Magneto does. You know what I mean? Like that's Magneto really just manipulates electrons to magnetize things. That's his power. Right. So Static Shock, his power being a complete control over the electrons, is the most overpowered electric-based superhero when you think about that in just base chemical terms. Sorry, Bobby. Physics nerd here.
So coming up in February of 2021, both Static Shock and Icon and Rocket, because I keep saying Icon and Rocket, they are a duo.
Yeah. Rocket is Icon's sidekick. Rocket can fly, and Icon is basically Superman, right?
Right. Yeah, they're a duo. So like when I say Icon and Rocket, it's one book, and then Static Shock, they're gonna get a digital release in February.
Okay.
And then later Static will get his own original graphic novel as well as just a trade paperback of whatever the digital is.
Call me up. I am down. Take my money now. I will buy a Static Shock graphic novel, dude.
For real. And
There's some
so
good
far they've
reading.
released previews of each of these books. Just one page with like no words or anything, just like showing what the art's gonna look like.
Sure.
And oh my gosh, they all look good. They kind of look like they're John Romita's Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
But like they're not. They're not. But they look.
They're in the
they're
style.
That art style.
So very, very, very pop art, colorful kind of. Like, I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
I am a sucker for.
And in February they're going to release a book called Milestone Returns #0.
Okay.
And my assumption of that is that it's little snippets of each of them.
Okay. So and now I'm sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself. Now these books are not being put out by DC, or are they in partnership with DC?
They are like DC at this point owns them.
So
but
it's
they didn't for the longest time.
It's effectively Vertigo and Young Animal,
Right.
basically, which was when Jim Lee, who we talked about last week, or no, 2 weeks ago, brought the Wildstorm over to DC. Vertigo was also like the Sandman and Constantine and other sorts of characters that were again just being put out by DC and then eventually just became wings under DC, appendages of the DC monster.
Right. To a point that like Constantine is just a part of the DC universe, like wholly now.
Yeah, I mean, the only Morpheus never shows up in the Justice League, and that's really the only Vertigo comic character that I can think of that doesn't, because all the rest of them do. But yeah. So that's not bad though. That's not a bad thing. That means that we finally might be getting a little more prominence to these characters that people who only got into comic books at a very specific time have any real general knowledge about. And we lucked out because we grew up watching Static Shock, which was an amazing Saturday morning cartoon. If you are under the age of 25, I don't know what, man, younger than 25?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Oh
That's
my
about
God,
fair.
we're so old, Bobby. Yeah, if you're under the age of 25, Static Shock was one of the best Saturday morning cartoons on the WB lineup on Saturday blocks. It was just so unique. It was so different.
It was the Spider-Man formula, like done perfect.
And yet it's wholly unique too. It's not Spider-Man. You can't you can say oh, he's a kid who got some powers by accident and now he's being a superhero. But so at brass tacks, it is identical to Spider-Man. I would never compare Static Shock to Spider-Man. I would never do that because they are such completely unique animals in not just personality-wise, not just powers-wise, but the setting. And the stories that Spider-Man tells are different from the stories that Static Shock told, and it was great.
Like episode 1 of Static, which is also like issue 1 of the comic.
Sure.
It's like he becomes Static, like he gets his powers because he went there to do bad.
For those who don't know,
he was a bad kid. Like he went there and was given a gun and was told like, shoot your bully.
We should explain.
Like, don't deal with him.
We should explain. Static Shock. Does Static Shock take place in a real city or is it a fictional city?
It's fictional. It's called Dakota.
Okay. In any case, it is a urban environment.
It's definitely based on like Detroit.
Yeah, it's not New York. You can tell it's not New York. It's supposed to be like one of the secondary big cities in America, but it is in the inner city. You have Static Shock, whose real name is Virgil Hawkins. Am I getting that right, Bobby?
Exactly, you got it.
Ah, yes, I still got it. Okay.
Love you.
He is a black kid going to an inner city school. He has a white bully. Both of them are not involved in gang activities, but are on the cusp of it. And what ends up happening?
His bully is in gangs.
Oh, sure.
And his name is Francis, by the way.
Yes, Francis. he chose his villain name before he got powers. He called himself Hot Streak. Anyway, and then he got firepower. But anyway, what it is Virgil, he sort of gravitates towards these gangbangers, and there is going to be a gang fight going down at the docks one night. He knows that his bully is going to be there. That's what the story that Bobby was laying out there. That's where that comes in. What happens at this fight is these chemical containers leak, and this gas affects everybody who was involved at the docks at that time.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty much everyone, who's within like a city block of that area.
Yeah.
Could possibly be affected.
Also,
so most of them are
who-
gang people. Some of them are homeless people.
Yeah, some of them were dock workers, and some of them were people who lived with the people that were affected because Virgil's best friend gets superpowers from like the residual stuff on his clothes in one episode. So it was this. It's a big like superpowered bomb that just drops in the city, and they call it the Big Bang, and they call the
those who
recipients
give
of
powers
these
bang babies.
Yes, bang babies. And so that's the origin of Static Shock. It's amazing. It's got to be on Hulu. Those episodes got to be on Hulu or somewhere on the internet, right?
I've been able to rewatch it on YouTube.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I know what I'm doing later. Anyway, so yeah, Static Shock is amazing. Next, maybe the Biker Mice from Mars reboot that I've been begging for.
It was rebooted for a time.
It was just on YouTube. I feel cheated. It was all the original voice actors too. Like, why is this bigger deal?
The show of Static was so good because like they were just we've talked a lot about like the very special episode.
Oh
like,
my! There were a lot of very special episodes, but there are some really special episodes in Static Shock.
There's a few that hit home to me. Those being like the gun violence one.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the first one that popped into my mind, where a schoolmate of the two protagonists
is tired of being bullied, so he brings a gun to school.
Yeah.
And he gets talked down, but then like,
it goes off on accident or something, right?
Yeah. Someone tries to tackle him, so he pulls the trigger, and he ends up shooting Virgil's friend Richie.
Yeah. Or Gear, as his superhero name was.
Yeah, he later becomes Gear. Yeah.
But it's exactly that.
Other ones I'm thinking of are it's that homeless girl who gets ice powers.
Yeah,
and it's Christmas time.
I was gonna say his friend Richie, Static Shock, we should say, voiced by Phil Lamar. And his friend Richie voiced by, I want to say, Will Friedel, who did Ron Stoppable.
I'm pretty sure, and he was Terry McGinnis. He was Batman Beyond.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just imagine, like, the thing that sticks out, because I just wanted to interject with the gun violence episode again, because it's Richie that gets shot in the leg, and I just remember the vocal performance, like screaming in pain on the ground, was like, as to me as a child, still like haunts me. Yeah. It's a very effective. The special episodes of Static Shock were very effective. It was a very well directed show, and there was a lot more of that too.
I could seriously do a top 5 of that show.
We could do another podcast, the Static Shock cast.
Yeah.
We could just talk about
and the last one I'll just talk about is so Virgil goes to spend the night at Richie's house.
Yeah.
And he finally meets Richie's parents.
Sure.
The dad being a huge racist.
Oh yeah.
Like he's like, I've heard a lot about you, Virgil, but never that you were black.
Wow, I don't remember that episode. I gotta watch Static Shock.
Oh yeah, it was the first time in a kid's cartoon where I actually I heard the phrase, you're a racist.
Oh, damn. Yeah, it is. Like, Static Shock didn't mess around, dude. The one that I was going to mention, two that I mentioned, there was, we already mentioned one of the primary antagonists is Hot Streak. He's Virgil's school bully, and he's his fire powers. He teams up with a water manipulator, and she's, and they, like, team up to do crimes. Aquamarina was her name. And they team up to do crimes, and she wants to be cured. There's like a cure that they're testing, and she wants to do that, so he sabotages it. And it's a beautiful metaphor of a codependent relationship. The other one I was going to mention was the other primary antagonist. Well, there's another Rubber Band Man as well, but the other primary antagonist, who would say one would probably say was the main antagonist of the series, Eban, who was just a living shadow, and that was his power. And I remember there was an episode where a bunch of homeless people that were affected by the Big Bang and developed powers, but they were because of the environment they were in, they grew up with being like hyper light sensitive.
Oh yeah, so they were like the Morlocks.
Yeah, so this criminal basically uses them and extorts them, these desperate people, and changes them to crime. And I just remember that was one of the first times in a kids series I really thought about some of the problems that come along with homelessness. So yeah, it's an impressive show. An impressive story and character, really, and we're all super excited. I don't know if you had any more to talk about, but we are nearing the end of the show already.
Oh, I do want to say, I believe, and I could be completely wrong about this, but I do remember Milestone got in trouble with the Static book.
Yeah,
it's like issue like 15 or so,
mm-hmm.
where it was like the first time like a teenager talked about having sex.
Oh, really? And yeah, this would have been like what, 2006, 2007?
Oh no.
Before that too, because Static
the
Shock
comic,
was on.
It would have been. It would have been in the early 90s.
Oh damn, yeah. Oh wow, I didn't even know Static Shock was that old. That's crazy. But yeah, you can imagine
in that issue, like him and his girlfriend, like they have a serious talk about like, do we want to have sex together? And like the cover issue was censored, but originally it was the two of them like on a couch, like, and there were condoms on the table. Like
they were pre-canoodling.
Right, exactly.
It's just and you see, like, we think about how much society has kind of changed in that sort of terminology now, but back then, man, gay marriage wasn't even legal. Like the what was it, I can never remember it, but the people that got really mad about lyrics and songs or the violent video game, the ESRB was a brand new thing. The ESRB was probably 5 years old at that point. You know what I mean? Like that would have been a very, understandably, a very controversial issue at the time in the early 90s. And probably still would be now to some people as well. Like comic books are still having controversies, although they don't get as much media attention as they used to. But it's So again, we're talking about just a very, very prolific and deserving of attention a title here. It's we want Static Shock, and I'm glad to hear that we're getting more than just that.
Yeah, in addition, they also said they're gonna like reprint like the old issues. So like good, because right now it is impossible to find.
Oh, I bet
the old issues.
Yeah, a short run comic from the 90s. Good luck.
Yeah, I think Static Shock only I want to say it lasted close to 50.
50 issues? Okay, that's not bad at all.
No,
but anyway.
No, and the only reason we're talking more about Static is because we know the most about Static.
We know the most about Static. Like, I mean, we grew up watching the cartoon. I can say that I've never read a comic of Icon or Rocket. I just know them from Young Justice. I know that they exist, but I know this character of Static really well.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, we got to start wrapping up, but we do have some time for maybe a couple of quick fires or anything. Before we get started, I want to say, Bobby, did you watch that Netflix documentary High Score yet?
No, not yet.
It's really good, dude. It's really good. It's only, I think, like 6 episodes, maybe less. And they focus on sort of a milestone in the video game industry, with obviously like the first arcade being like the first episode, and then they talk about Nintendo, they talk about Sega. The last episode is about first-person shooters, and they interview John Romero, who's the creator of Doom. Still a goddamn dork, and I love him to death. But it's any video game aficionados in the audience or who would like to know more about the history of video games. I found it a very enlightening series, and a very tastefully done series as well. They dedicate an episode to. I want to bring this up though, because I think you'll have some thoughts about it. They do discuss Night Trap in an episode.
Okay.
The movie, the video game that's
so bad.
The video game that basically got us video game ratings from the ESRB because it was so controversial at the time. Just they showed clips from it. I've never actually knew what the story of Night Trap was. It's hilariously bad. It's so bad.
But like I've listened to a good chunk of the hearings for that. They try and be like, well, the plot of the game is that you want to trap these girls. It's like, no, it's the opposite.
You have
Like,
the
you want the
option
girls
grab
to
these
escape.
girls, but yes, you want it's a not exactly a point and click, but it is a interesting type of gameplay. I gotta say though, after
I mean,
watching
think of
the
it like
episode,
Five Nights at Freddy's, where like you're at a control
that's
panel.
exactly what I thought. That is exactly it. It is the precursor to Five Nights at Freddy's, and you look at like how successful that game became. It's kind of a shame that Night Trap was a steaming pile of garbage, because they talked to the creator and he was like, yeah, originally I wanted like just ninjas coming down on this like small village or something, but then eventually they made it like this teen party. And it's like, you can't do ninjas, you got to do vampires, but you can't do vampires, so we got to have to make something new. So because you can't have people like biting.
There's a home invasion at a slumber party.
Yeah, they're like zombies or something. That they drain blood with these weird hook things. I forget what they call them. No, they're literally just dudes in trash bags. That's literally all they are. Because they didn't have the budget for actual like costumes. But here's the thing: like after watching the episode about High Score about Night Trap, I gotta tell you, Bobby, we're always talking about movies. We're always talking about remakes.
Let's remake Night Trap.
I want somebody to make a Night Trap movie, because I genuinely think you can make a really good. It doesn't even have to be a horror comedy, although it would be perfect as a horror comedy. Like you could make a pretty disturbing version of those weird hook monster zombie things,
sure,
and get a bunch of attractive women. Just everything that those politicians said about it in those hearings. Let's make a movie that has yes to all of it. All right.
I will say, like, as someone who has worked at like a GameStop and all that, I am pro ESRB.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Oh no, I genuinely think that that's a rating system, and not just that.
It needed to happen.
I'm even a fan of, like, I'll say that the parental advisory stickers on albums too. Like, I'm fine with that. You know, like it doesn't dissuade children from wanting to play or listen to these. But it's
literally giving the parents all the tools they need to know.
It's the choice. You know.
Yeah. Like, and I'm saying this as a kid who, I was the cool kid that got the Mortal Kombat on Sega.
Yeah.
Like, I got the one with the blood.
Lucky. Anyway, that's gonna be about it. Do you want to shoot off a couple of rapid fires before we're out of here?
Yeah, I guess I got like 2.
All right, yeah, 2 is
Nothing
probably
big.
what we got time for. Go ahead.
Sure. Dragon Ball is looking to reintroduce the character Super 17
Oh, okay.
from Dragon Ball GT.
I don't know enough about. No, I don't, Bobby. I don't know enough about the current state of Dragon Ball or enough about the conclusions of Dragon Ball GT to have an opinion about that.
Well, Super 17 was terrible.
Well, you picked the wrong rapid fire to start with. What's the next one?
Okay, Mulan is going to be released for free on Disney Plus in December.
We did it! We did it! Everybody, take a lap.
Enough.
The Digital Graveyard has won. Thank you, Jason David Franks, or whichever Power Ranger we wanted to save the day.
Johnny Young Bosch.
Johnny Young Bosch, you've done it. You've saved us once again from paying too much for a movie that's probably just okay. Thank you.
Steve Cardenas.
Steve Cardenas, you are deep within our hearts, and we will love you forever. Okay. All right. That's the last one.
Yeah.
Let's get this wrapped up. Once again, would like to thank, as always, Sam Dunn, and John Wheeler for the use of our theme song. We want to thank Eric Castellanos Art, or the Dapper Skull, for our logo. Check us out on Facebook at The Digital Graveyard. Follow us on Twitter at @digital_graveyard, because I ran out of space and I couldn't fit all the letters in. And we don't have an Instagram yet, do we?
No.
Okay,
we'll have to get one.
We'll get one. We'll work on it. You can listen to us on Spotify, on Audio Boom, and hopefully on YouTube. I have no idea when I'll get around to uploading the video version of this episode, but we'll see. Anything you want to say, Bobby?
Nah, have a good night.
And as always, we are still working on that outro.